Well, good morning, rise, shine, and let's give God the glory on this beautiful day. We want to thank you again for taking a moment to tune in and want to Tabernacle Praise Morning Devotion. We are so excited that you took the time to watch us on this morning. And we're going to get straight into the word of the Lord this morning. It is in 2 Kings chapter number 13 and verse number 19, where we will pick up and teach our lesson on this morning. 2 Kings chapter number 13, and we're going to look at verse number 19. And it reads, "And the man of God was angry with him and said, You should have struck 5 or 6 times. Then you would have struck Syria till you had destroyed it. But now you will strike Syria only 3 times." And I'd like to entitle this devotion this morning, Keep on Striking. The story picks up where Jehoash is weeping over the bed of the prophet. And he repeats the same word that Elisha quoted when Elijah was taken up. He said, "The chariots and the horsemen of Israel." It is at the deathbed where Jehoash comes to the full revelation, and he understands that the victory that Israel walked in, it had nothing to do with their military might, but it had everything to do with God and the prophet that was speaking over the nation. The Bible said that in his death, he's still concerned about the people of Israel. Jehoash come to him and he received divine instruction, a guarantee to victory from the prophet's mouth. And he says, "I want you to go and get a bow, and I want you to go get some arrows, and I want you to take these bows, and I want you to open the east window. And once you open the east window, I want you to shoot in the very direction of your enemy." In these times, anytime you would shoot an arrow in the direction of your enemy, or throw a spear in the direction of your enemy, you was declaring war on your enemy. So the text teaches us that we cannot sit back and be passive when the enemy is constantly trying to attack us. We must make up in our mind and draw a line in the sand and say, enough is enough. I am going to declare war on the situation that's going on in my home. You will no longer have my son or my daughter. You will no longer keep attacking my finances. I declare war. And the Bible said after he shot the arrow that Elisha declared out of his mouth, he said, "This arrow is the Lord's victory over your enemies." And when we open up our mouths and when we declare what God has already said, the victory, it shall be ours. Notice that before they get on the battlefield, before war even broke out, before anything had been done, the Bible said that Elisha already declared the victory. Once we open up our mouths and once we declare what God has already declared, then we already have the victory. The victory is already ours. But the Bible said that after Elisha declared those words, he gave instruction to Jehoash and he said, "I want you to strike the ground." You know the story. The Bible said that Jehoash struck the ground 3 times, and the man of God becomes angry. And when you look at the story, it seemed as if Jehoash followed the instruction of the prophet. The prophet never told him how many times to strike the ground, but he did tell him the importance of the arrows. And sometimes we take for granted the arrows that God has placed in our hand. We take for granted the arrow of prayer. We take for granted the arrow of praise. God has given us these weapons. And we know the value of them, but sometimes we take them lightly. The man of God becomes angry at Jehoash and said, you should have struck the ground at least 5 or 6 times. Well, from that we can pick up and we understand that Jehoash had at least 6 arrows. The man of God was mad with him because he knew what he was carrying. And God knows what you and I have on the inside of us. And he's not going to be satisfied until we use everything that he's placed inside of us. Some of us just go through the motion, but God knows what he has put down on the inside of you. And the Bible said he only struck the ground 3 times. The prophet said you should have struck the ground at least 5 or 6 times. Then you would have had total victory over the situation that you're in. So my question to you this morning, who told you to stop striking? Some of us get discouraged and we throw in the towel and we stop striking because, well, we say that we're not hitting anything. It looks as if nothing is happening in our lives. But I want you to know today that you have to keep on shooting regardless of how it looked like. The Bible said that we walk by faith and not by sight. So the prophet was angry at him because he had at least 6 arrows in his bag. Why stop at 3? You know what God has placed down on the inside of you. Who told you to stop praying? Who told you to stop seeking? You got to remember that the victory has already been declared. But sometimes our behavior and what has been declared over our lives, it doesn't seem to line up. The preacher is preaching on Sunday morning and he speaks a prophetic word and he tell you in 7 days you are going to be blessed. Look at your behavior. Does your behavior indicate that you believe what was spoken over your life? The victory was spoken over Jehoash's life, but his behavior said otherwise. Anytime God sends a prophetic word, anytime God declares something over you, then you should receive it and act accordingly. Let your action be an indication that you believe what God has spoken over your life. Don't stop striking. It doesn't matter how dark it looks. It doesn't matter how difficult it is. God knows what you are carrying. He knows what he's placed on the inside of you. And regardless of the situation, come hell, high water, or no water at all, you got to keep on striking. Keep on striking until your son come back home. Keep on striking until your finances change. Keep on striking until that sickness leave your body. Keep on striking till you see the change in your community. Don't stop striking. Don't stop striking the ground until you see the change that you desire. God has already placed it in you. If you keep on striking the ground, victory shall be yours. It has already been declared. It has already been decreed that victory is yours. Don't stop striking, regardless of how the situation may appear. Well, I want to thank you again for tuning in. And I want you to know this morning that the victory has already been given to us because of what Christ had already did on Calvary. God shot his best arrow and he gave us his son. And the victory may not be in your hand, but it's in reach. And all you have to do is continue to obey and walk in his will. And victory is and shall be yours. We'll see you on next time. God bless. Bye-bye.